Okay, we have a shocking development in the ongoing battle between drug cartels and law enforcement on the US-Mexico border. Mexican authorities have recently seized a series of surveillance cameras installed by drug cartels in the border city of San Luis Rio Colorado. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how these cartels are now using technology to monitor law enforcement and expand their control, the broader implications of this trend, and what it means for border security and public safety. Okay, so first things first, San Luis Rio Colorado is a city located right on the border with Arizona, and this is across from Yuma. It's known as a popular destination for Americans seeking inexpensive prescriptions and dental work. This border town has increasingly become a hotspot also for cartel violence. And over the past years, rival cartels have been locked in a bloody battle for control of smuggling routes in this particular area. So, the city's strategic location makes it an ideal point for drug trafficking, particularly as cartels seek to smuggle drugs across the US border. So keep this in mind. It's no surprise that these criminal organizations are investing in surveillance technology to keep one step ahead of law enforcement. So, Mexican authorities recently uncovered and seized 24 surveillance cameras that had been installed by cartel members around San Luis Rio Colorado. And these cameras were discreetly placed in public areas, on telephone poles, light posts, and even in palm trees. Photos shared by authorities show that the cameras used by cartels were similar to those you'd see on a typical home porch. And they were wrapped in duct tape and were capable of providing real-time footage of key areas, allowing the cartels to monitor the movements of law enforcement personnel, including soldiers and police. And the cameras were installed by falcons, which is the name given to the cartel lookouts who work to protect their operations by keeping track of authorities' whereabouts. Now, if you follow anything about the cartel, this is definitely not the first time technology has been used to establish surveillance networks. In fact, this tactic dates back several years. A notable example comes from the border city of Reynosa in 2015, where authorities found a network of 39 cameras installed by cartels. And these cameras were powered by electric lines and connected to the internet through phone cables, and they were strategically placed to monitor military bases, law enforcement buildings, and major city streets. So by creating their own surveillance networks, cartel can pretty much maintain control over their operations. And this allows them to avoid raids, track law enforcement activity, plan their smuggling routes more effectively. In essence, the cartels have been able to create their own eyes in the sky to protect their illegal enterprises. Now look, San Luis Rio Colorado and Reynosa are not isolated cases. I mean, the use of technology by cartels is part of a broader trend that shows how criminal organizations are adapting to new forms of warfare. Over the past decade, cartels have become more sophisticated, using encrypted communication, drones, now surveillance networks to gain an upper hand in the battle with the authorities. I mean, in Reynosa, for example, cartel cameras monitored everything from military bases to shopping centers, ensuring the cartel members could anticipate law enforcement movements in real time. Now, here's what's even more concerning. In the same year, authorities discovered 55 radio communication antennas between the border cities of Matamoros and Miguel Alemán. These antennas were part of the cartel's larger communication infrastructure, enabling them to coordinate across vast areas and avoid detection. So guys, you need to understand, this is not like the movies where you see El Chapo hanging out in the 80s. No, this is 21st century technology in the year of 2024. This is new stuff, and this is the adaptation of fighting off military operations and police operations against the cartel. The discovery of these cartel-run surveillance systems is definitely alarming for several reasons. First and foremost, it shows that the cartels have a well-developed infrastructure that allows them to stay one step ahead of law enforcement. With the ability to monitor the movements of police military units, cartels can react quickly to avoid arrest, continue their operations without interference. This technological edge also means that law enforcement faces new challenges in trying to dismantle these organizations. Traditional methods of surveillance and intelligence gathering may be rendered ineffective if cartels are able to anticipate every move. So this adds another layer of complexity to an already difficult situation on the border, not only for Mexican authorities, but also U.S. Recently, the U.S. Treasury Department sanctioned 2 Mexican businesses, an ice cream chain and local pharmacy, accusing them of using profits from fentanyl trafficking to fund operations tied to the Sinaloa cartel. At the same time, internal conflicts within the Sinaloa cartel have intensified following the arrest of one of the cartel's founders, El Mayo, in July. His capture is believed to have triggered a violent power struggle within the Sinaloa cartel, as different factions are fighting for control of the lucrative drug trade. This internal chaos has spilled over into cartel territories, leading to even more violence and insecurity in places like San Luis Rio Colorado. So, U.S. and Mexican governments have a history of cooperation in fighting drug cartels, but the increasing sophistication of cartel operations presents new challenges. As cartels become more adept by using technology, cross-border law enforcement efforts will need to adapt accordingly. Like, how are they going to train together? Can they have the same SOPs or standard operating procedures? How can there be a standard where the U.S. and Mexican authorities both have the same technology, the same training, and work together? If I'm going to be honest with you, this is very difficult to figure out, and the cartel have definitely exposed how that is an issue. So the fight against cartels is definitely far from over. As long as there is a demand for drugs in the U.S., criminal organizations will continue to innovate and find new ways to protect their smuggling operations. I mean, the discovery of surveillance cameras in San Luis Rio Colorado is just one part of a larger strategy by cartels to stay ahead of law enforcement. So, the seizure of cartel surveillance cameras underscores the growing influence of technology in the battle between law enforcement and criminal organizations. Again, we're talking drones, cameras, radios, encrypted devices, using Bitcoin, stuff like that. The cartel is doing everything it takes to not get caught by U.S. and Mexican authorities. However, this time, it's very difficult to hide cameras because they were all found. And I'm sure there's many cameras throughout the entire border regions of the U.S. and Mexico. So I'm sure we will see more stories like this in the near future.